So let's talk about these stopwatch cards. Now, a stopwatch card or a stopwatch action is any card that's got that stopwatch icon on it, which will have instructions in that special white transparent box there, separate from the other instructions on the card. There are stopwatches on Christmas cards, although just a few, and on nearly half of the presents. So what these are going to do is allow you to play that card as a sudden interrupting action on either your own turn or other players' turns. These are always played directly from your hand, meaning that if you want to perform the actions in that stopwatch box, that only happens when it's played in that sudden interrupting manner. As a counter example, if I were to open up a present with a stopwatch action on it, I would not play the stopwatch action if I open up that present on my turn as part of my normal turn. That stopwatch would be ignored and I would only follow those standard instructions. So the idea behind the stopwatch is that you can play it quickly if the action described in the stopwatch box pertains to something that's just happened, a card that's just been played or a related action. And these are all very clear in the instructions. So for instance, I've got one baseball glove. Now in this case, the entire action on that tag is a stopwatch action. There are no alternative instructions, which means that if that was in my home and I opened up that present like normal, there is no action to take. But if I have baseball glove in my hand and I want to play it, well, now it needs to pertain or relate to something that just happened. So as a quick example, baseball glove says, if anyone throws a baseball at you, catch it before it breaks anything. And then there's a few more options to take. So there is another present, and I'm going to assume my opponent here has just played baseball. And baseball is used to break a fragile decoration. Now I have one. So my opponent might be trying to throw that baseball at me and break my fragile decoration. So he plays that card, and he's about to point to which decoration of mine he wants to break. And at that point, even though it's his turn, I can play baseball glove. It directly references that other card, and that will always be the case. It will either directly reference by name a card that it relates to, or it may say play at any time, in which case you can play it at any time. So in this case, I've just intercepted his baseball. I would follow the instructions on the baseball glove. It says throw it back at any other player to break one fragile decoration. So what I would do is throw that baseball right back at him. It never broke my decoration. Now he does not actually have a fragile decoration, so there's really nothing to do. I just prevented some damage from happening to me. So that's how they're played. Now you might be wondering, how fast do I have to play it? And that's just going to be left up to every table and every group playing. It would be too late if he played baseball and he said, you got to break your fragile decoration. I said, okay. And then he discarded at the end of his turn and it went to the next player. And then I said, oh wait, I've got baseball glove. That's too late. Now, a few seconds, a moment, 5 seconds, you'll have to just see what seems fair to you in good faith. If you play it too late, you just take it back into your hand. If the rest of the table says, hey, that's, you just played that too late, just go ahead and take it back into your hand and try to be a little quicker next time. But that is the point, to try to know what's in your hand and be ready to respond when an action that might trigger that stopwatch is available to you. So a couple other things to point out. We just talked about baseball glove. The entire instruction set is a stopwatch, which means it has no action to play if I open it directly from my home. As a counter example, there are cards with no stopwatch, which means that can never be played as a sudden interrupting action. If that was in my home already and I decided to open it, well, obviously I would just follow those instructions. And then there's cards that have both. So in this case, you will only follow the stopwatch actions if you play it in that sudden interrupting manner, and you will ignore the instructions outside of that box. But if I had that card in my home and I opened it up like normal on my turn, in that case I would ignore the stopwatch box and only follow the standard instructions. Now, because you can play one stopwatch card per turn, and that's not limited to per round, it's just per turn, you could in theory play up to 4 stopwatch cards in a round if you have 4 people playing, including yourself. So let's say this opponent does a card and I play baseball glove, right? And I catch him. And then the next player does something and I play a stopwatch action on them too. So once per player turn, and that includes yourself. So in this case, I have an example where I have in my hand ice skates, and the stopwatch action includes a reference to hockey stick. Now I've got hockey stick around here somewhere. I laid it out. So let's say it's my turn, start of my turn. I'm going to draw a card like normal, and I'm going to decide to play hockey stick. So I open it up like normal. Right now, hockey stick has no stopwatch action, but there's some other things you can do with it. You're going to knock down an outdoor decoration and some other things, but right when I open that, and that's the one card I get to play per turn, I can very quickly play ice skates and say, hey, it says when you open hockey stick to take these other following actions. So playing a stopwatch card does not count against your one card per turn limit, and you can do it on your own turn if it directly references something that you just did legally. So in that case, I legally opened hockey stick from my home, and then I played ice skates from my hand, and I will now evaluate both of those instructions. So instructions in the stopwatch box will take precedence over anything else that's happened. They may alter what's already going on, alter the instructions on another card. They may add to those actions, or they may not even really reference them at all, and you'll just have to follow the stopwatch instructions, see if that other card, how much it's affected, if at all, and then go from there. The last thing I will mention about those stopwatch actions is that those can be played like normal during Christmas morning. So if you watch the Christmas morning video, you know that things change a little bit. When Christmas morning is played, you may get into a state where people are opening presents in these rounds, and they're taking turns, but it's no longer a normal gameplay turn. You've kind of entered into this new phase of the game as you approach the end of the game. And so players will not be drawing cards at the start of those turns. They will not be required to play one card as per the normal gameplay rules, but you will still be opening presents and following all the instructions on them. So during those final countdown rounds, as they're called, you could play those stopwatch actions from your hand as you would during normal gameplay. And they should mostly remain relevant and accurate, the instructions. If it says something like, prevent the next player from drawing a card at the beginning of their turn, well, that would have no real impact, because during those final countdown rounds, you are not drawing cards at the beginning of your turn. But it may say something like, have the next player skip their turn, in which case they would skip their turn in the final countdown round. So that will make more sense when you read through the Christmas morning instructions and watch those videos. But do just be aware that those stopwatch actions will be played just like normal, whether you're in the normal gameplay or during Christmas morning.